Good morning, Year 6, and welcome to today's math lesson where we're going to be looking at drawing pie charts. Now, a little problem we have today is if you don't have a protractor at home. So if you don't have a protractor at home, you might not be able to draw them accurately, but if you use the protractor that's on the screen, you can maybe estimate where they have to go. But the important thing is today that you know how to do it, even if you haven't got a protractor at home, okay? Right, so today we will revise work about how angles around a point total 360 degrees, and then know that this represents 100% of the data within a pie chart. I'll show you more about that in a minute. And then from that information, you will construct a pie chart using a protractor if you have one, estimating if you don't. And then it's just worth noting if you have got a protractor, that a standard one has a radius of 5 centimetres. The radius is the distance from the middle of the centre to the outside point. So if circles of this radius are drawn, it's easier to construct the angle. So if you're going to draw any circles today, then try and make them kind of roughly the same size as your protractor, if you have one. Okay, now, you probably don't have a protractor like this at home, but this is actually a full 360 degree protractor. We don't use these at school, but I'm just showing you this because, well, I'm going to show you this as well next to it, because this shows you how you have to think you have to think differently about degrees when you're drawing the pie chart than you do about percentage. So this one on the right, diagram on the right, is showing percentage around the pie chart, and the pie is like split into 10 sections, each, or 100 smaller sections or 10 larger sections, going around the circle. But this protractor on the left hand side is showing you that, for example, 10% and 10 degrees are not the same, so you have to think about them differently, so bear that in mind today. Okay, also I've got diagrams here. I've got an example pie chart that's already been filled in. We can see 30% there. Again, you can see on the right we've got 72 degrees. So again, you have to think about it carefully. You have to think the pie chart with percentage is out of 100. The whole of the degrees when you're drawing it is out of 360. So when we're working from percentage and turning it into degrees, we've got to think about how we can go from 100 to 360. So we're going to have to times it by something. Either times it by 3.6 or think about other ways we can do it using the data that we have. And I'll show you more about that now, actually. Okay, so the first one, I'm just going to do this with you, kind of show you how I would do it. So construct, that means make, a pie chart using the data shown in this percentage bar. Okay, apologies if that's not very clear. I enlarged it and it's gone a little bit fuzzy. But you've got the number line with 100%, and then we've got the pie chart going around it, and then those different coloured sections represent different percentages of the pie chart. This one's going to be nice and easy to construct because my pie chart is just already labelled out with the percentages. So I'm going to look at the first one, which is apples, and I can see that that is representing 20% of the pie chart, so I can draw that in, 20%. The next one is not quite so easy. It's not going up in a multiple of 10. I'm going to count very carefully, and I can see that that one is worth, it's not quite 20, I think it's worth about 16 degrees. So we have to add that onto our 20%. Now actually, the next one, I think when I drew it, I didn't do the strawberry one here. I made it easier, and I saw that grapes and pears, right at the other end of the scale, were both worth 10% each, and I think I drew those in. But I'll show you how I keep going. So I did actually draw the grapes and pears first, and then I filled in the bananas and the strawberries. Okay, like that. But you can just add it along as probably the best way to do it actually is adding it along as you go, and then obviously you have to make sure that all the percentages then add back up to 100. When you're using it with degrees, you need to make sure that all the degrees then at the end add up to 360 to make sure you've got it all parts of it correct. Okay, right, let's have a look at this question. You could have a go yourselves. So a survey was conducted to show how children in class 6 travel to school. Draw a pie chart to represent the data. Okay, have a go at that if you can. But I'm just going to show you, just to start you off, let's have a look at this table that we've got in front of us. So we've got the type of transport, and we've got the total at the bottom. We've got the number of children, and we've got the total at the bottom. Then we've got convert it to degrees in the final column, and that's 360. Well, if we notice, the number of children is actually 36. So we need to convert it from the total into degrees. So we can actually just look at that relationship there and multiply it by 10. So we can just multiply our number of children by 10 to convert it to degrees. Okay, I don't know if you want to pause the video and have a go. I'll go through it in a moment. Okay, so I finished filling in the charts. I just times them by 10 each time, and then I made sure that adding 120, 70, 80, 50 and 40 actually made 360, and it did. And then I started with the car, so 120 degrees. I drew an angle. I've got a nifty little 360 protractor, but you'd have to do it in different sections with your smaller one. I started on 0 and I drew an angle of 120 degrees. There was my 0 line I drew in first, then I drew my 120 line, and you can see that section is representing cars. The next one is representing bikes, so I'm going to add 70 degrees on to my 120 degrees, so I'm going to get to 190 degrees. That's how I work out where my next one's going to go. And that section of the pie chart is going to represent bikes. I'm now for the next section going to add 80 on to 190, so that's going to get me to 270. That's the walk section of the pie chart. I'm then going to add 50 onto 270, so that gives me 320. That's the bus bit, and I don't need to add anything, draw anything in for the scooter because it's already done for me. Okay, and then when I take the protractor away, that's what I'm left with. That's the different sections of the pie chart. It doesn't matter how you do it going round, but I think it makes most sense to start kind of vertically with the on the 0 degree there, and then I can fill in the different parts. And there we have them. Okay, sorry I haven't used colour coding. Right, let's have a look at the next question. Right, this time a survey was conducted to work out Year 6's favourite sport. Work out the missing information and then construct the pie chart. This time look at the number of children and then look at the degrees. You have to convert them to the degrees, but you also might have to go back the other way. Okay, have a little go and pause the video now, please. Okay, hopefully we can see that going from 60 to 360 degrees, we're going to multiply by 6. So going from number of children to degrees, we're going to multiply by 6. If we need to go back the other way, we're going to divide by 6. So football is going to be 60 degrees. Tennis, 18 times 6 is 108. That's going to be 108 degrees. Here with a 90, we had to work back. That'll be 15. Swimming's done for us. And then cricket, we need to divide 42 by 6 to get 7 degrees. So now here, we've got all of our degrees that we need to put onto our pie chart to make the total. If we just check, we have to double check that we add them all up and they do make 360, and they do. So I'm not going to go through the whole process here. I'm just going to indicate on the side of the protractor where I would put the little bits. So I would start the first section, would be 60 degrees. Okay, I would mark in 0 as well. The second one, I'm going to add 108 onto that, so it's going to be 168. I'll mark that off on the correct part of my protractor. Then going to add 90, which gets me to 258. Then going to add 36, which gets to 294. Then going to add 42, which gets us to 336. So that should leave us with 24 degrees before we go back to 0, and it does. Okay, so that's roughly what the pie chart would look like. Okay, and the next question. I seem to have not animated my answers there. I'm sorry, but I'm not going to start the video again. You'll be pleased to know. So this is another question. A restaurant was working out which Sunday dinner was the most popular. Use the data to construct a pie chart. Okay, well, I've messed this up slightly and given you all the answers, but what I would have done to start with is I would have put the answer in the bottom there, which was 360 degrees, and then thought to myself, well, how am I going to go from 40 degrees to 360? Well, I'm going to times by 9. That's how we converted them all to 2 degrees. I timed all of the parts by 9, so 11 times 9 is 99, 8 times 9 is 72, etc. And then once I've got the degrees, I can add them onto my pie chart. Okay, last question. And I'm pleased to say I haven't messed this one up. Okay, Miss Jones is carrying out a survey in class about favourite crisp flavours. 15 pupils chose salt and vinegar. How many fewer people chose ready salted? Okay, really reading that question carefully. We'll have a real think about this one and see if you can work out the answer. Okay, pause the video now, please. Okay, so as we can see this time, we've shown the pie chart and we've shown the degrees that have been drawn on the pie chart. We haven't been shown amounts of children and we haven't been shown percentages, so it's different things we need to work with there. So what we do know is that 15 children chose salt and vinegar. Okay, so that tells me that there must be 30 children in the class because that was half of it, so I know there's 30 children in the class. Now, if I actually divide 360 degrees, which is my whole circle, by 30, that tells me how many degrees each child in the class would represent, and that's 12. There's 12 30s in 360, just like there's 12 3s in 36. So one pupil is worth 12 degrees. So if I then look at my ready salted section and I divide that by 12, that would tell me that there was 6 children that chose ready salted. Let's look back at the question. How many fewer people chose ready salted? So what I have to do there is I have to take that 6 children away from my 15 children that chose salt and vinegar, and that leaves me with an answer of 9. Okay, the answer to that question was 9. Now, when I looked at the answer scheme, the people who made this question up actually worked it out slightly differently than me. They didn't bother to work out how many children were in a class. They just used the 15 children idea. So instead of dividing 360 by 30, they just divided 180 by 15. I mean, personally, I found the 360 divided by 30 easier, but I know a lot of you are much better at mental maths than I am, so you would probably have done it that way. Okay, I hope you enjoy the work today, and then it's the last lesson on statistics tomorrow. See you then.